The sleek conference room of Wilson and Partners International Consulting felt suddenly cold as Robert Wilson's words hummed in the air. He sat behind his mahogany desk, looking at me with that particular mix of condescension and fake sympathy that only privileged CEOs can master. "Look, May," he said, straightening his Rolex, "your technical skills are excellent. But this is a client-facing position. We need someone who can communicate more effectively. You understand, right?" I did understand. I understood perfectly what he really meant. My name is Mai Nguyen, and at 36, I had just been fired from my position as senior technical consultant at Wilson and Partners, supposedly because of my Vietnamese accent. Of course, I replied softly, maintaining my calm exterior. My English not good enough for American clients. I deliberately thickened my accent, watching Robert's patronizing smile widen. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I had graduated from Stanford with highest honors, spoke 5 languages fluently, and currently ran a technology empire across 3 continents. An empire that was about to become very relevant to Wilson and Partners' future. Exactly, Robert nodded, relieved that he didn't have to spell it out. "We'll give you an excellent reference for translation work. Maybe some of the Asian firms would be a better fit." Behind him, Thomas Carter, the HR director, shuffled uncomfortably. He had witnessed too many of Robert's cultural fit terminations over the years. I gathered my belongings, my movements deliberate and slightly uncertain, exactly what they expected from a dismissed Asian employee. "Thank you for opportunity," I said, bowing slightly. Another stereotypical gesture that made Robert lean back, satisfied with his decision. Walking through the office, I caught snippets of conversation about the company's biggest upcoming project, a digital transformation contract with Global Tech Solutions, one of the world's largest technology providers. Wilson and Partners had been pursuing this client for months, desperate to land the multi-million-dollar deal that could save their struggling consultancy. What Robert didn't know was that Global Tech Solutions was just one of 17 companies owned by NGT Holdings, my company. The same company that had been quietly buying shares in Wilson and Partners through various subsidiaries over the past year. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone and sent a text to my COO, Lisa Chen. Time to proceed with Phase 2. The response came immediately. Board meeting scheduled for next week. Current share ownership 47%. Timing perfect. I smiled, thinking about the meeting I had scheduled for later that afternoon. Not as Mai Nguyen, the fired consultant with poor English skills, but as Emden Thompson, CEO of NGT Holdings, one of the most powerful technology conglomerates in Asia. My driver James was waiting outside in an unmarked sedan, not the Rolls-Royce I usually use for business meetings. "How did it go, Ms. Thompson?" he asked, using my legal surname. "Exactly as expected," I replied in perfect English, my carefully maintained accent gone. "Take me to the 4 Seasons. I have a meeting with the Global Tech Solutions Board in an hour." As we drove through downtown San Francisco, I thought about my journey to this moment. 20 years ago, I had arrived in America as a scholarship student, determined to prove that success had no accent. While my classmates at Stanford partied, I built my first technology company in my dorm room. By graduation, it was worth $10 million. But I had learned early that in the Western business world, a young Asian woman with an accent faced certain assumptions. So I created Emden Thompson, the mysterious CEO who conducted most business through representatives. The few who met me in person knew me only as a powerful executive who happened to be of Asian descent. My accent, when I used it, was subtle, refined, the kind that suggested international education rather than immigration. My phone buzzed with an email from Robert Wilson to his board. "Handle the Mai situation. Now we can move forward with the Global Tech Solutions pitch without any cultural complications." I forwarded it to my legal team, adding it to the growing file of discriminatory actions that would soon become very relevant. At the 4 Seasons, I changed into a perfectly tailored channel suit. My assistant, Sarah, briefed me as I prepared for the Global Tech Solutions meeting. "Wilson and Partners stock is down 15% this quarter," she reported. "They're banking everything on landing our contract. Without it, they'll likely face a hostile takeover by year's end." "Or sooner," I murmured, checking my reflection. The powerful CEO looking back had little in common with the meek consultant Robert had dismissed this morning. The Global Tech Solutions board members were already seated when I entered their conference room. Ladies and gentlemen, I began, my English crisp and perfect. Thank you for meeting with me today. As CEO of your parent company, I want to discuss the future of our technology consulting partnerships. For the next hour, I laid out my vision for consolidating our consulting relationships. The board listened intently as I explained why we needed to cut our consultant list from 20 firms to just 5. What about Wilson and Partners? Asked James Morrison, the board chairman. They've been pursuing us quite aggressively. Ah, yes, I smiled, pulling up their proposal on the screen. I actually had a very interesting interaction with their CEO this morning. I don't believe they share our values regarding diversity and international expertise. I played a recording of my meeting with Robert, legally obtained in California's two-party consent state. The board members shifted uncomfortably as they listened to his condescending tone, his thinly veiled discrimination. Well, Morrison said after a moment, I guess that makes our decision easier. Wilson and Partners is off the list. But removing them from consideration wasn't enough. Robert Wilson had built his success on exploiting and dismissing international talent, hiding his discrimination behind concerns about cultural fit and communication skills. It was time for him to learn that in today's global business world, true power doesn't speak with just one accent. Actually, I said, pulling up another presentation, I have a different proposition. NGT Holdings currently owns 47% of Wilson and Partners through various subsidiaries. Next week, we'll acquire another 15% from minor shareholders. I propose we don't just remove them from consideration. We take control of their company and restructure it completely. The board members leaned forward, intrigued. They had seen me engineer similar takeovers before, always resulting in stronger, more diverse companies. Robert Wilson may think international talent is a liability, I continued. I'm going to teach him just how wrong he is. Sometimes the best way to change a broken system is to take control of it. By the time I left the meeting, the plan was in motion. In 1 week, Wilson and Partners would face a board vote they didn't see coming. In 2 weeks, they would have a new CEO. On my way out, I passed Robert Wilson in the hotel lobby. He was probably there to meet with other potential clients, unaware that his firm's fate was already sealed. He looked right through me, not recognizing the inadequate consultant he had fired this morning. I smiled, thinking about how his face would look when he discovered who really owned his company. Sometimes the best response to discrimination isn't to fight it directly, it's to rise so far above it that you can change the entire system. My phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. Share acquisition proceeding ahead of schedule. We should have majority control by Friday. Perfect timing. Because next week, Robert Wilson was going to learn that in the modern business world, power and competence don't depend on what you sound like, they depend on what you can do. The following week dawned bright and clear in San Francisco. I sat in my private office at NGT Holdings headquarters, reviewing the final details for the Wilson and Partners board meeting. The last share purchase had been completed overnight, bringing our ownership to 62%. Miss Thompson, my assistant Sarah announced through the intercom, the board members are assembling in the main conference room. I smiled, checking my reflection. Today, I wore a custom Armani suit that probably cost more than Robert Wilson's monthly salary. Perfect timing. How's our other guest? Mr. Wilson is waiting in the reception area. He seems anxious. Of course he was anxious. He received an urgent summons from Global Tech Solutions' parent company, a mysterious conglomerate that now owned the majority of his firm's shares. His company's future hung in the balance, and he didn't even know who he was really meeting. Let's not keep him waiting, I said, gathering my files. The NGT Holdings boardroom offered a stunning view of San Francisco Bay. Around the massive table sat some of the most powerful executives in global technology, and at the far end, looking distinctly uncomfortable, sat Robert Wilson. Thank you all for coming, I began in perfect English, entering the room. I believe some introductions are in order. Robert's eyes widened slightly as he saw me, but there was no recognition in his gaze. The accent was gone, the demeanor completely transformed. To him, I was just another powerful Asian executive, the kind he probably played golf with while complaining about his diversity hiring requirements. I'm Helen Thompson, CEO of NGT Holdings, I continued. As of this morning, we own 62% of Wilson and Partners International Consulting. The blood drained from Robert's face as he finally understood the purpose of this meeting. His company was no longer his. "This is irregular," he protested weakly. "I wasn't informed of any major share acquisitions." "All perfectly legal," Lisa Chen, my COO, assured him, sliding over a document. "Your shareholders were quite eager to sell once they saw your latest quarterly results." I pulled up a presentation on the main screen. "Now let's discuss the future of Wilson and Partners. We've identified several areas requiring immediate attention. First, your hiring and retention practices." The screen showed statistics: high turnover rates among international employees, discrimination complaints, salary disparities based on national origin. "These numbers are taken out of context," Robert interrupted. "We have strict policies about diversity and inclusion." "Yes, let's talk about those policies," I replied, clicking to the next slide. It showed his email from last week. "Handled the Mai situation. Now we can move forward without any cultural complications." Robert's face reddened. That was a performance-based decision. The employee in question lacked the necessary communication skills for client interaction. "Interesting perspective," I said, letting my natural accent slip back just slightly. "Would you like to explain that assessment to her directly?" The confusion on his face lasted only seconds before recognition dawned. His mouth opened and closed several times, but no words came out. "Yes, Robert," I confirmed, now using the same accent he had so recently dismissed. "That employee in question is me, though I prefer my other title, your new CEO." The boardroom erupted in barely concealed murmurs. Robert gripped the arms of his chair, knuckles white. This is some kind of joke," he managed finally. "Not at all," Lisa interjected, sliding another document across the table. "The board has already approved the leadership change. Effective immediately, Mai Nguyen is CEO of Wilson and Partners. You're being offered a position as a senior consultant, assuming you can meet our new communication standards." For the next hour, I outlined my plans for transforming Wilson and Partners. We would become a truly global consultancy, leveraging international talent instead of hiding it. The cultural fit excuse for discrimination would be replaced with actual cultural competency requirements. "But our clients," Robert protested weakly, "they expect a certain presentation." "You mean they expect consultants who sound like you?" I asked. "Interesting theory. Let's test it." I pressed a button on my phone. "Send them in, please." The boardroom doors opened to admit a group of executives, CEOs and directors from Wilson and Partners' biggest clients. Many of them, like me, had accents that told stories of international journeys and global expertise. "Allow me to introduce some of your former clients," I said. "They've all agreed to return to Wilson and Partners under the new leadership. Apparently, they appreciate consultants who understand global business from personal experience." Robert slumped in his chair, defeated. Everything he had built his success on, his assumptions about what clients wanted, his beliefs about what made a proper consultant, was crumbling around him. "You have a choice," I told him. "Accept a position under the new structure, learning to value the diversity you once dismissed, or accept a severance package. Either way, Wilson and Partners will no longer be a place where accent determines opportunity." The transformation of Wilson and Partners happened faster than anyone expected. Within 6 months, we had doubled our international client base. Our new hiring practices attracted top talent from around the world. Even our existing clients praised the broader perspective our diverse teams brought to their projects. Robert chose to stay, though it took him time to adjust to reporting to the woman he had once fired for poor English skills. Watching him struggle with his unconscious biases became a case study in our new corporate training program. Accent Bias in Global Business: A CEO's Story. Thomas Carter, the former HR director, thrived in his new role leading our diversity and inclusion initiatives. "I always knew our old policies were wrong," he told me. "I just didn't have the power to change them." 1 year after the takeover, I stood on stage at the Global Business Forum, delivering a keynote speech about transforming corporate culture. My accent was natural, unforced, sometimes American crisp, sometimes Vietnamese influence, always authentically mine. Success in global business, I told the audience, doesn't speak with one accent. It speaks with many voices, each bringing its own perspective, its own strength. In the front row, I could see Robert Wilson listening intently. He looked different now, humbled, perhaps, but also more aware. Later that day, he would lead a panel discussion about recognizing and overcoming unconscious bias in consulting. After the speech, my phone buzzed with a message from Lisa. Stanford Business School wants you to speak to their international students. Topic: breaking the accent ceiling in global business. I smiled, thinking about all the young professionals out there, holding back their true potential because someone told them their accent was a liability. It was time to tell them a different story. Last week, I interviewed a candidate for a senior consulting position. She was brilliant with degrees from top universities in India and France. But she apologized for her accent, just as I had once felt compelled to do. Your accent, I told her, is not a limitation. It's proof that you have something many consultants lack: genuine global perspective. She got the job, of course. And next month, she'll lead a major project for one of our most prestigious clients. The old Wilson and Partners office has been transformed. Gone are the days of homogeneous teams and narrow definitions of professional communication. Our hallways now buzz with conversations in dozens of languages. Our client meetings celebrate rather than hide our international expertise. Robert still works here, though now he's known for championing our international talent development program. I had to learn the hard way, he admitted recently, that I was letting prejudice blind me to incredible talent. As for me, I keep 2 items in my office. First, the termination letter Robert gave me, framed as a reminder that sometimes the greatest opportunities come disguised as setbacks. And second, a sign on my desk that reads, "Success has no accent." Because in the end, the best revenge wasn't in humiliating Robert or taking over his company. It was in transforming his narrow-minded consultancy into a truly global firm where accent is seen as an asset, not a liability. And every time I hear our diverse team of consultants confidently presenting to clients in their own unique voices, I know we've done more than just change one company. We've helped change the conversation about what a successful business leader sounds like. Sometimes the most powerful response to discrimination isn't to fight it. It's to rise to a position where you can eliminate it entirely. And sometimes the sweetest victory isn't in proving someone wrong, but in showing them a better way to be right.